Hi, this is Christine. It is February 15, 2015. It's in the evening. I had a dream last night, and it was kind of scary to the point where I woke up. That was the only way to get out of the dream. And when I woke up, I didn't think I was going to share it because it was weird, which is nothing new. All of my dreams lately have been weird. But here it is the evening, and for some reason the dream is coming back into my mind. And I'm starting to see or realize things about it, like maybe what it means. So I think I'm going to share it. But I don't know what it means, if it means that I'm backsliding or if I'm lost, or I don't know what it means. It takes place kind of in a swamp, and there's a road. Okay, there's like a big lake, and it's pretty water. It's like light blue, clear, see-through water, almost like a swimming pool. It's pretty. And there's a path. It's a road where you can actually drive a car, and you have trees on either side because it's swampland. This is all dirt road, and you pretty much need a Jeep. You know, I'm thinking this might be like Australia or even Florida. Maybe it's the Florida Everglades. I don't know. And this could be alligators, it could be crocodiles. I don't know which one. I mean, alligators I think are bigger than crocodiles, but it was one of those two. And then there was 2 chairs here, and they actually looked like Santa Claus chairs, like sleighs, sleigh ride, but they were rusted. One was red and one was blue, and the metal was rusted, like brown, but the seats were like a velour velvet cushion, and one was red velvet and the other one was blue velvet. But the metal on the sleigh, and it was like a Santa Claus sleigh, it was rusted. I came over, I was standing over here, and there was like a Crocodile Dundee type of guy with me. And I went over here, and I was looking at the sleigh, and I was gonna sit down in the blue one instead of the red one, but both cushions looked actually kind of dirty, as if they had been outside, weather worn. That's why the metal looked rusted, because it had gone through weather and years and things like that, and you know, it was just weather worn. And the cushions, they weren't covered or protected. They just got rained on and snowed on and had mud and, you know, stains and stuff like that. So I didn't sit on it, but I was thinking about sitting on the blue one, but I didn't. And then I ended up coming over here, just walking. There was a car here. It was a silver car, almost like a van, but it looked more like a silver bullet type of vehicle, like a I don't want to say a space vehicle, but it didn't look like a regular car with 4 wheels. It looked more like a bullet. It was silver. And there was a guy, and he got in to drive. Now, before we did all this, we did a test run with the car, and down here, like, you go down the hill. Okay, this is a dirt road, and this is all swampland. You go down the hill, and then right here, there's like a, I don't want to call it a turtle shell, but it's kind of like a shell shape, like a round shell shape, sort of like this, and it was tan, and it had a bump on top of it. And then when you come down here, you have to go over the shell shape and the bump, and it's kind of like Lady Luck, and you just hope that your car makes it over this bump into the water, and then from the water you get across the water to the other side, and then you just keep going, but nobody seems to make it over. And you know that Polar Express movie? This is kind of like when the train slid across the ice, except this is water instead of ice, but it was almost like sliding across the water, but it was water, it wasn't ice. So the guy and I, at first we took the car and we tried to get over, and each time we drove, like one time was the practice run, the other time was the real thing. Each time we were going backwards. So we weren't driving forward into the lake, or did we drive forward on the practice run? But we got over it, and the practice one was getting over this shell, and hopefully that this bump on top of the shell, like it was like a shell or round shaped tan rock or something like that. But we were hoping that this little bump was not going to rip out the bottom of the car. Because if you make it over, then you get in the water and your car is still in one piece. And if this bump rips, a hole in the bottom of your car, then obviously your car's going to sink. So the first run that we did, we made it over the bump. And then we ended up back on land, and like I said, we were over here. We walked up, and then I was standing behind it, and then I came up front and I saw the two Santa sleighs, almost like there was, the bells and the harnesses and stuff like that. And I guess you would use horses for it instead of reindeer, but yeah, both chairs were kind of rusted and weather stained. So then I walked over here, and then all of a sudden we got two big alligators or crocodiles, and they just came out, and this started turning into water. So we knew that it was going to start going underwater. We were going to have to get out of here. And this road was like a track too, like a train track. So we got in, he was driving, I got into the car, the two windows were open, and the two crocodiles were on either side, and I got a little bit nervous. He started reversing and going backwards, and I told him because both windows were open. There were two windows in the back seat and then two windows in the front seat where he and I were. I was in the passenger side, and I was turned around facing the back of the car versus he was sitting in the regular position with the steering wheel facing the front of the car. So he was facing forward, I was facing backwards, and I told him I'm going to I'm going to close the windows because I was a little afraid that these alligators were trying to get in, even though really all they were doing was just laying quietly in the water, and their eyes were just watching us, but they weren't moving towards us. So I pushed both buttons for the electric windows, and I rolled the windows up, so at least we had glass, and the alligators, nobody could get in. So then he floored it because the water started coming in, and we were going to have to get out of here. So he floored it, and we started going backwards on this track. And he was going faster and faster and faster, and the train was going really fast. And I knew we were going to, we started going downhill, and that we were going to have to ricochet over this shell here, this bump, and hopefully it wasn't going to rip a hole in the bottom of our car. And we did. We made it over this bump, and there was gap and there was room, so we didn't hit the bottom of the car. And then we went, and kind of like landed in the water. And as we were flying over the air, before we had fallen down and hit the water and landed in the water, I saw, because this is all clear, I saw this like huge alligator underneath the water. It was almost like he was looking and waiting for us. So we landed, kaboom, in the water. The car landed in the water, and we both got out of the water. I just remember myself getting out of the car because I figured we're going to have to swim and try to make it to the other side of the lake. So, and again, the water was clear and it was blue. So I started swimming, and the guy with me, I imagine that he got out of the car and he was swimming too. I wasn't sure where he was, but I just imagined that he got out also. So I started swimming. I got out of my passenger side. I started swimming, and I knew I was going to have to swim kind of fast because I didn't know where this alligator was located, because I was on the surface and I had only seen him from an overhead view. I saw that he was in the water down here waiting. So I started swimming, and I was doing the freestyle swim, you know, with your arms over your head and then turning my head to the left for oxygen. And when I would turn my head up for oxygen and I saw above the water, it was like a bedroom scenery. It wasn't my bedroom. It was actually my bedroom when I was growing up at my parents' house, is what it looked like. It looked like my bedroom layout from when I was a teenager. And then when my head would go back in the water, you know, I would open my eyes, and obviously the water was blurry because I didn't have goggles. But another part of me was a little bit afraid to open my eyes underneath the water because I was a little nervous about what I might see in there, even though the water was clear. And so I swam, and then I would turn my head to the left again, and I would see my bedroom. It wasn't the outside, you know, like if this was a lake, you would see the shore, you would see the sky, the clouds, the trees. You know, I mean, when you look at a lake, you just see nature. But when I would lift my head up to breathe, I wasn't seeing nature. I was seeing my bedroom. My bedroom from when I was a teenager growing up in my parents' house. And then I would put my head again in the water and, you know, swim. And all of a sudden, something white, almost like an octopus arm, reached out, but it had a hand with a white glove. It had a hand with 5 fingers, you know, 4 fingers and a thumb, and it had a white glove on. And the arm came out, and it felt like it was one of the arms of the 8 arms from an octopus. And the arm reached out and it grabbed my left arm, like my left forearm, you know, between my elbow and my hand. And I don't know what it was going to do with it. I just assumed that it was going to try to pull me under the water. So what I did was I turned with my right hand, and all of a sudden I had a sword in my right hand, and I took it and I went through the water, and I cut his forearm in half, and then his octopus arm went away, and his hand let go of me. And as I pulled my hand away so that his hand, his white glove hand, octopus arm hand, would let my arm go, you know, I pulled my arm away from his arm in the water. My body was above the water, you know, my head was above the water, but my body was in because I had been swimming. I stopped swimming when he grabbed my arm. But I did get loose. My arm, I pulled it away, and his arm went away because it didn't have a hand anymore. And I don't know if his hand sunk or something like that, because with the sword I did cut it in half. But as I yanked my arm out of his hand in the water, I yanked my hand from the bed. Like my arm was hanging off the edge of the bed in real life. So I yanked it away from hanging off the edge of the bed, and I brought it back to my chest area, or onto the mattress, onto the bed area. And that's how I woke up. I startled myself and woke up by pulling my arm back onto the bed, which in my dream was pulling my arm out of with the grip of this white octopus arm that had the white glove on his hand, on its hand. I don't know. It was just the weirdest thing this morning, and I didn't think I was going to share this with anybody, because some dreams are just awkward, and I don't really know if I need to share them. But then this evening, it started coming back to me, and I know that there are 2 guys that are interested in me. Both of them are worldly. If I was still in religion, I don't know if that's what's going on. If I'm getting pulled by worldly guys, maybe I need to cut loose of it. Maybe I'm not supposed to be with a guy. I don't know. But or maybe it's just me. My mom died today 3 years ago. Today is the day of her death. 3 years ago. I don't know if that played a part with the dream. I don't know. But I just felt like this evening, like the alligators, the fact that I'm in a swamp, the sleigh was rusted, red and blue. You got the blue serpent and the red serpent, the red dragon, and both sleighs were red and blue. They had cushions. One was red, one was blue. But they were rusted. And then the silver bullet car. And the fact that we're going backwards. We're not supposed to go backwards, we're supposed to go forwards in the Lord. I don't know. This is just so weird. I hope I'm not in trouble spiritually. I'm going to pray over it. If anybody's got any ideas, feel free to share. Okay, guys, thank you. And I hope you have a good rest of the evening. I'll talk to you in the next video. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.